You've been told that fasting melts fat, that all you need to do is skip breakfast, tighten your eating window, and watch the weight fall off. Yet, for many people, the scale doesn't move. The energy crashes, hunger gets worse, and after a few weeks, your body seems to hit a wall. You're fasting by the book, but the fat just won't budge. Here's the truth: fasting works, but only when your metabolism is aligned with it. What most people don't realize is that there's one critical mistake almost everyone makes: a silent biological misstep that stops fat burning in its tracks. It's not about willpower, it's not about longer fasts, and it's not even about calories. It's about what happens when your insulin and metabolism fall out of sync. See, fasting is supposed to switch your body from burning sugar to burning fat. But if you spike insulin at the wrong time, even slightly, your body never makes that transition. Instead of tapping into stored fat, you're stuck burning circulating glucose and muscle tissue. That's why you feel tired, weak, and frustrated despite doing everything right. What's worse, most people unknowingly trigger this mistake during their refeed, the very moment that should amplify fat burning. The wrong food, the wrong timing, or the wrong recovery signal tells your metabolism to shut down fat loss and start conserving energy. Your body thinks it's starving and your progress collapses. But when you fix this one thing, everything changes. Your energy stabilizes, your hunger fades, and your body finally unlocks stored fat effortlessly. This isn't about tricks or deprivation. It's about understanding how your system actually works and using fasting the way nature intended it as a tool for powerful, sustainable metabolic health. Once you correct this single fasting mistake, fat loss becomes automatic and your body starts working with you, not against you. Most people start fasting with excitement. The first few days feel great, energy spikes, appetite drops, and the weight begins to move. But then something strange happens. Progress slows, fat loss stalls. You're eating less, fasting longer, but somehow your results disappear. The problem isn't that fasting suddenly stopped working. It's that your metabolism did. When fasting is done correctly, it's one of the most powerful metabolic resets there is. It lowers insulin, boosts fat oxidation, and teaches your body to rely on stored energy. But fasting is also a stressor, and when applied carelessly, that stress turns from therapeutic to damaging. The body's primary goal isn't to look lean, it's to survive. If your fasting routine signals famine instead of controlled adaptation, your system will protect itself the only way it knows how: by slowing everything down. One of the biggest hidden mistakes is inconsistency. Skipping meals at random times, changing fasting windows every other day, or eating unpredictably keeps your circadian rhythm confused. Hormones like cortisol, ghrelin, and leptin follow a rhythm. They expect regular patterns. When that rhythm breaks, your hunger cues misfire, your energy dips, and insulin sensitivity worsens. Even if calories are low, your metabolism becomes inefficient. Then there's REC, excessive calorie restriction. Many people combine fasting with aggressive dieting, long fasts, tiny meals, and minimal fat or protein when they finally eat. Initially, this accelerates weight loss, but soon the body interprets it as starvation. Thyroid hormones drop, resting metabolic rate declines, and cortisol rises. Your body learns to survive on less. You burn fewer calories even at rest. So, despite eating less and fasting longer, you stop losing fat because your metabolism is now defending against perceived scarcity. Another major block comes from improper refeeding. After a fast, your body is highly sensitive to what you put in. That first meal can either reignite fat burning or shut it off. A spike of processed carbs or sugar floods your system with glucose, driving insulin through the roof. Insulin's job is to store energy, not burn it. So instead of continuing fat oxidation, your body switches gears and locks away fat. It doesn't matter that you just fasted for 18 hours. One insulin surge tells your body to store, not burn. Worse yet, when you consistently end your fast with the wrong macronutrient balance, low protein, low fat, and high refined carbohydrates, you send mixed signals. Insulin goes up, but your satiety hormones like leptin and peptide, YY, don't rise enough to keep you full. You end up hungrier after eating, craving more food, and often overeating later. This cycle keeps your insulin high, prevents fat adaptation, and makes fasting feel miserable instead of effortless. Hormones are at the center of all this. Insulin, cortisol, leptin, thyroid hormone, they all respond to your environment. Fasting isn't just about skipping meals. It's a communication system. You're constantly telling your body what to prioritize. Done right, it says we're efficient, we have energy stored, let's burn fat. Done wrong, it says we're starving, hold on to everything. Another overlooked factor is sleep and recovery. If you're fasting hard but sleeping poorly or training intensely without replenishing electrolytes or protein, cortisol stays elevated. High cortisol keeps glucose circulating, inhibits fat metabolism, and blunts insulin sensitivity. Over time, this mimics insulin resistance even in someone eating very little. The body can't distinguish between overtraining, chronic stress, or starvation. It responds to all by conserving energy and slowing down fat loss. It's also important to remember that metabolism is adaptive. If you restrict too much for too long, your body adjusts downward. Your fat-burning enzymes decrease, mitochondrial efficiency drops, and your system prioritizes preservation over expenditure. That's why people who fast aggressively at first see dramatic results, but then plateau. They've pushed the system too far, too fast. The fix isn't to fast longer or eat less, it's to fast smarter. Consistency in timing, nutrient, dense refeeds rich in protein and healthy fat, and giving your body signals of abundance during your eating window all keep hormones balanced. Fasting should feel steady and sustainable, not like punishment. When your system feels safe, it lets go of stored fat willingly. The real secret isn't about deprivation, it's about communication. Every fast tells your metabolism what to do next. When you stop sending mixed signals and align your fasting rhythm with how your hormones naturally function, the fat burning switch turns back on, and this time it stays on. You can be fasting perfectly, hitting your windows, drinking water, avoiding meals, and still not burn fat. The reason often comes down to one hormone, insulin. Insulin is the metabolic gatekeeper. When it's low, your body freely burns stored fat for fuel. When it's high, even slightly, that fat burning process shuts down instantly. What most people don't realize is how sensitive this mechanism is and how easily everyday habits sabotage it. During a fast, your body relies on lipolysis, the breakdown of stored fat into fatty acids for energy. But lipolysis only happens when insulin levels stay low. Insulin's job is to store energy, not release it. Even small rises in insulin signal your cells to stop pulling fat from storage and start using glucose instead. It doesn't take a full meal to trigger this response. Sometimes it's just a splash of milk in your coffee, a 0-calorie sweetener, or a handful of nuts at the wrong time. When you wake up and add cream or artificial sweeteners to your coffee, your brain perceives taste in calories, prompting a mild insulin release. It's not much, but it's enough to interrupt fat burning. You might still be technically fasting, but metabolically, you're not. That subtle insulin rise keeps your body in storage mode, blocking access to stored fat and reducing the benefits you're fasting for in the first place. Even healthy snacks can do the same. Many people who struggle with fasting unknowingly graze on foods that elevate insulin just enough to prevent metabolic flexibility. Protein bars, keto snacks, or nuts high in carbs like cashews can create small insulin spikes that add up throughout the day. Each spike restarts the clock on fat burning. Your body can't enter full ketosis or deep fat oxidation until insulin drops again, and that takes hours. Then there's the refeed problem. After fasting, your body becomes incredibly insulin sensitive, which can be a good thing if you refeed with the right foods. But when you break your fast with a carb-heavy meal, even clean carbs like fruit, oats, or rice, insulin surges sharply. That surge immediately halts fat burning and tells your body to store nutrients instead. It doesn't matter that you've been fasting for 18 hours. Insulin decides what happens next. Timing is everything. If you eat carbs late in the day or pair them with fat during your refeed, insulin remains elevated longer. High insulin plus dietary fat equals storage. Your body can't burn the fat you eat while insulin is high. The ideal approach is to structure your meals so that insulin spikes are strategic, short-lived, and balanced by long periods of low insulin. That's how you train your body to use both fat and glucose efficiently. Small, frequent insulin elevations are what destroy fasting progress. Imagine you're trying to drain a fuel tank, but you keep adding tiny amounts of fuel every few hours. It never empties. That's what happens when insulin keeps rising. Your fat stores remain locked because insulin is the key that controls the gate. Insulin doesn't just affect fat storage, it also controls other hormones involved in appetite and metabolism. Elevated insulin suppresses glucagon, the hormone responsible for releasing stored energy. It also lowers growth hormone, which plays a major role in fat breakdown and muscle preservation. When insulin stays high, glucagon and growth hormone can't do their jobs effectively, and you end up tired, hungry, and metabolically stuck. Even more subtle is insulin's timing with cortisol. In the morning, cortisol naturally rises to mobilize energy. If you consume something that raises insulin during this time, say a sugary coffee or a fasting safe snack, you end up with both insulin and cortisol elevated together. That combination promotes fat storage, not fat burning. It's a hormonal mismatch that turns your fast into the opposite of what you intended. The solution isn't to fear food, it's to respect timing, keep insulin low and stable during fasting hours, then control how and when it rises during eating windows. Break your fast with protein and healthy fat, not quick digesting carbohydrates. Avoid constant grazing or anything that tricks your body into thinking fuel is incoming. Fasting works when insulin stays quiet. When you manage that one hormone, you control the switch between fat storage and fat burning, and the results finally match the effort. Fasting can be a powerful tool, but what happens after the fast is what determines whether it works long-term or backfires. Most people focus so much on the fasting window that they overlook the refeed, the crucial moment when the body decides whether to burn fat or slow everything down. And the single most important factor in that moment is protein. The timing, quality, and amount of protein after a fast make or break your metabolic response. When you fast, your body becomes more sensitive to insulin, nutrients, and hormonal cues. That's why what you eat first matters so much. If you break your fast with poor protein intake, your metabolism immediately suffers. Protein isn't just a nutrient, it's a signal. It tells your body that energy is available, muscle tissue should be preserved, and metabolism can stay elevated. Without that signal, your system assumes scarcity and begins conserving energy. That's when the fasting crash sets in: fatigue, sluggishness, cold hands, and slowed fat loss despite continued effort. Many people mistakenly break their fasts with carbohydrates or fats alone, thinking it will be gentle on digestion or help them stay in fat burning mode. But without protein, there's no trigger for muscle protein synthesis, no stimulation of thyroid hormones, and no reinforcement of the metabolic engine. You might feel satisfied temporarily, but internally your body is downshifting. Muscle tissue begins to break down to release amino acids for repair, and as muscle mass declines, so does metabolic rate. Protein after fasting serves another key function. It stabilizes blood sugar. When you eat protein first, it blunts the insulin response of the entire meal, keeping your blood glucose steady and preventing the roller coaster of spikes and crashes that sabotage fat burning. A high protein refeed also boosts glucagon, the hormone that promotes fat release from storage. In other words, protein keeps you in a fat burning environment even as you start eating again. This becomes even more critical for those who fast regularly. Extended fasting or repeated calorie restriction without sufficient protein drives down thyroid conversion, specifically the conversion of T4 to the active T3 hormone. T3 is what keeps your metabolism running efficiently. When protein is inadequate, T3 levels drop, energy output decreases, and fat loss stalls. You can be fasting for 18 or even 24 hours, but without proper refeed nutrition, your metabolism starts conserving instead of burning. The solution isn't complicated, but it requires intention. Breaking a fast with 30 to 50 grams of high-quality animal protein, beef, eggs, salmon, or whey isolate, tells your body it's safe to stay in a high metabolic state. Those amino acids support recovery, preserve lean tissue, and provide the building blocks for neurotransmitters and enzymes that keep energy levels stable. It's not just about muscle, it's about keeping every cell in your body running at full capacity. Timing also matters. The first meal after fasting is your body's metabolic reset button. If you undereat protein there, no amount of food later in the day will fully reverse the slowdown. This is why so many people hit a plateau after a few weeks of fasting. They're signaling conservation, not abundance after every fast. Consistency with protein timing restores metabolic rhythm, reinforces hormonal balance, and prevents the fatigue that pushes most people to quit. Some believe eating protein breaks the benefits of fasting. In reality, the opposite is true. Fasting primes your body to always respond better to protein. When you refeed strategically, the same amount of protein builds more lean tissue and drives a stronger thermogenic effect, meaning you burn more calories during digestion. You end up leaner, stronger, and metabolically faster, not slower. There's also a psychological benefit. Protein-dominant meals improve satiety through hormones like peptide YY and GLP-1, reducing cravings and preventing overeating later. That's why people who prioritize protein don't struggle with rebound hunger or binge cycles after fasting. They're refueling correctly, signaling the body that food is available, energy is abundant, and there's no reason to slow down fat metabolism. When fasting is paired with precise protein timing, you turn it from a stress signal into a performance tool. Your body stops fighting back, your metabolism stays high, and fat loss becomes consistent instead of unpredictable. Protein is more than just fuel. It's the language your metabolism understands. Speak that language correctly, and fasting starts working with you, not against you. The moment you break your fast is the most powerful metabolic decision of your day. It's the point where you either continue burning fat or switch instantly into storage mode. Most people unknowingly undo all the benefits of fasting within minutes of eating their first meal. The key to keeping fat loss active after fasting is mastering your refeed window, both in timing and in what you eat first. When you've been fasting, your body is metabolically flexible, insulin sensitive, and primed to absorb nutrients. That means even a small amount of the wrong food, like refined carbs, sugary drinks, or even healthy fruits, can cause a sharp insulin spike. That spike shuts off fat burning immediately and redirects nutrients into storage. The solution isn't to avoid eating, it's to eat in the right sequencing. The optimal way to break a fast is with protein and fat first, not carbohydrates. This combination keeps insulin stable, supports satiety hormones, and continues fat oxidation while gently reactivating digestion. When you start your meal with protein, beef, eggs, salmon, or even a whey shake, you signal to your body that fuel is available without flooding it with glucose. Adding healthy fats like butter, tallow, or avocado extends this effect by slowing digestion and keeping blood sugar steady. Starting your refeed this way creates a smooth transition from fasting to feeding. Instead of shocking your metabolism, you give it a controlled entry back into nutrient processing. Insulin rises only slightly, enough to shuttle amino acids into muscle for repair, but not enough to shut down fat metabolism. That's why people who prioritize protein and fat first can continue burning fat even after eating. Carbohydrates have their place, but timing is everything. Once you've eaten protein and fat, adding a small portion of carbohydrates later in the meal or even in your next meal can refill glycogen stores without derailing fat loss. This method is known as insulin sequencing. By letting protein and fat buffer your insulin response, the carbs you eat afterward are processed more efficiently with less storage and more energy utilization. Another reason to avoid breaking a fast with carbs is hunger control. Fasting temporarily lowers ghrelin, the hunger hormone, but when you refeed with sugar or refined carbs, ghrelin rebounds sharply, triggering strong cravings and often leading to binge eating. Protein and fat, on the other hand, activate leptin and peptide YY, hormones that signal fullness and help you stay satisfied for hours. That's how you prevent the post-fast overeating that ruins progress. The AS timing of your refeed window also matters. Your metabolism follows a circadian rhythm. Hormones like insulin, cortisol, and thyroid hormone work best during daylight hours. Breaking your fast too late in the evening reduces your body's ability to handle nutrients efficiently, especially carbohydrates. Ideally, your refeed should occur during your most active hours when muscle tissue is ready to absorb nutrients and insulin sensitivity is at its peak. For most people, that's late morning to early afternoon. Portion size during the first refeed meal should also be moderate. Fasting increases the activity of digestive enzymes and absorption pathways, meaning your body doesn't need massive amounts of food immediately. A small, balanced first meal, high in protein and fat, helps you stabilize energy and prevents that bloated, sluggish feeling many people get after fasting. Once your body is reacclimated, your next meal can be larger and include slow digesting carbohydrates like vegetables or sweet potatoes if needed. A well-structured refeed not only restores nutrients, but also reinforces hormonal balance. When your body sees consistent, predictable signals, fasting followed by strategic nourishment, it adapts by maintaining high fat burning efficiency even while fed. Your thyroid stays active, cortisol stays controlled, and insulin remains stable. That's the environment where sustainable fat loss happens. Refeed mastery isn't about restriction, it's about rhythm. Every time you break fast correctly, you're teaching your metabolism how to respond, when to store, when to burn, and when to repair the sequence of protein and fat before carbs trains your body to favor fat as its primary fuel source day after day. That's how you make fasting not just effective, but effortless. When you approach the refeed as a continuation of fasting, not a reward for it, everything changes. Your hunger stays balanced, your energy remains high, and your fat loss accelerates instead of stalling. Fasting primes the system, the refeed programs it. Master that window, and you control the entire metabolic cycle. There comes a point for almost everyone who practices fasting when progress suddenly stops. The weight loss slows, the energy fades, and you start wondering if your body has adapted to fasting altogether. What's really happened is not that fasting has stopped working, it's that your metabolism has adjusted, your system has become efficient, maybe too efficient, and now it's holding on to fat instead of burning it. But the good news is you can flip that switch back almost instantly with one strategic adjustment, what I call the burn fat fix. The burn fat fix isn't about fasting longer or eating less. It's about recalibrating your hormonal environment so your body feels safe enough to start releasing fat again. This involves three core elements: precise fasting windows, as low insulin refeeds, and protein prioritization. When these align, fat oxidation reignites, especially around stubborn areas like the belly. The first step is tightening your fasting rhythm. Many people get sloppy with timing, skipping at random, shifting eating windows, or grazing too late in the day. That inconsistency confuses your circadian system and hormones like leptin and cortisol. The fix is structure. Set a consistent window, ideally around 16 to 18 hours of fasting, followed by 6 to 8 hours of feeding. That window is long enough to deplete glycogen and drop insulin, but short enough to prevent thyroid or metabolic slowdowns. Fasting longer than 20 hours too often can actually suppress fat burning by elevating cortisol and lowering T3. Next, you pair that structure with low insulin refeeds. The most powerful fat burning happens when insulin remains quiet for most of the day. The foods you choose during your eating window determine whether your body stays in fat burning mode or switches back to storage. The goal here isn't zero carbs, it's timing carbs intelligently. Start each meal with protein and fat to buffer insulin, and save any carbohydrates for later in your eating window, ideally after physical activity. This sequence keeps insulin low early in the refeed and allows glucose disposal when your muscles are most insulin sensitive. That's how you keep burning fat even when eating. The third pillar, protein prioritization, locks in the results. When you eat sufficient protein, ideally 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of lean body weight, you preserve muscle and elevate thermogenesis. Protein has the highest metabolic cost of digestion. It forces your body to expend more energy just to process it. At the same time, amino acids from protein stimulate glucagon, which works in opposition to insulin. While insulin stores energy, glucagon mobilizes it. That hormonal balance is exactly what restarts fat oxidation when you're stuck in a plateau. Here's where it all comes together. When you fast consistently, break your fast with protein and fat, and keep your insulin response low throughout your refeed, your metabolism resets back into a fat-burning state. The liver begins converting fatty acids into ketones again. Mitochondria upregulate fat oxidation enzymes, and you start pulling energy from stored triglycerides rather than dietary carbs. Within just a few days of applying this structure, most people notice an immediate change, reduced hunger, more stable energy, and a flatter midsection. This approach also protects against the hormonal fatigue that often follows aggressive fasting. Instead of running on stress hormones, your body runs on fat-derived fuel. Cortisol normalizes, thyroid conversion improves, and leptin signals hunger accurately again. You're no longer forcing the process. Your metabolism is cooperating. The burn fat fix works because it speaks the language your body understands. It uses timing, nutrient sequence, and hormonal rhythm, not restriction, to unlock stored energy. You're essentially teaching your metabolism when to rest, when to burn, and when to rebuild. This balance keeps your engine running hot without ever triggering a survival response. If your fasting results have stalled, this is the missing adjustment. You don't need more discipline, you need more precision. Every time you align fasting windows, control insulin spikes, and lead with protein, you reinforce the body's natural ability to burn fat around the clock. It's a small shift that produces rapid results because it restores what fasting is designed to do, make your metabolism efficient, resilient, and fat-fueled. Once this rhythm locks in, fat loss stops feeling forced. You're no longer chasing energy. Your body is providing it. That's the power of the burn fat fix. It turns fasting from a temporary weight loss tool into a long-term fat burning lifestyle. The real goal of fasting isn't to lose 10 pounds and go back to old habits. It's to build a body that burns fat effortlessly for life. Short-term results are easy. Anyone can fast hard for a few weeks, eat less, and watch the number on the scale drop. But sustainable fat loss requires something deeper, a system that teaches your metabolism to stay flexible, strong, and efficient year-round. That's where fasting stops being a diet and becomes a lifestyle built around metabolic strength. The foundation of long-term fasting success is our consistency without rigidity. Your body thrives on rhythm. It needs predictable patterns of feeding, fasting, activity, and recovery. Once you've mastered your fasting window and refeed structure, the next step is stabilizing it, fasting roughly the same hours each day, eating nutrient-dense foods in the same general window, and keeping your sleep and stress cycles aligned with that rhythm. This synchronization between circadian timing and hormonal balance is what locks in metabolic health. But fasting alone isn't enough. The body needs mechanical stimulus to stay metabolically active, and that means resistance training. Every pound of lean muscle you maintain increases your daily energy expenditure and improves insulin sensitivity. Muscle is metabolically expensive tissue. It burns calories even when you're sitting still. Without training, fasting can lead to a lower metabolic rate over time. But with consistent resistance exercise, lifting weights, body weight training, or even strength-based intervals, you preserve and even build lean mass, which keeps fat loss active indefinitely. Training also amplifies the hormonal benefits of fasting. Resistance work naturally raises growth hormone and testosterone levels while improving glucose utilization. When combined with fasting, it teaches the body to use fat as the primary energy source during recovery. Over time, this creates what's known as metabolic flexibility, the ability to shift seamlessly between burning fat and glucose depending on demand. That's the marker of a truly healthy metabolism. The second pillar of sustainability is sleep. Without deep, consistent rest, fasting quickly backfires. Poor sleep drives cortisol up and insulin sensitivity down, two conditions that block fat oxidation and promote hunger. When you sleep well, growth hormone rises, tissue repairs, and the metabolic machinery that burns fat resets. No fasting strategy can outperform poor recovery. Sleep is where the real metabolic magic happens. Meal timing is the third piece that ties everything together. The same number of calories eaten at random times produces different hormonal effects than when eaten within a consistent window. Late night eating blunts fat burning by keeping insulin elevated when your body should be resting. Eating at regular, predictable times helps synchronize leptin and ghrelin, the hormones that regulate hunger and fullness, preventing overeating and stabilizing energy. You're training your body to expect food at certain times so it uses that energy more efficiently. Another key factor in sustainability is says nutrient quality. Fasting gives your body a break from digestion, but what you feed it afterward determines how well it adapts. Whole, unprocessed foods, especially animal proteins, healthy fats, and minerals, provide the building blocks for mitochondria, hormones, and enzymes. These are the engines that keep your metabolism humming long after the fast is over. Nutrient dense eating ensures fasting builds health, not just burns fat. Finally, the mindset must evolve. Fasting is not punishment or deprivation. It's a deliberate signal of control. You're showing your body how to thrive with less, not suffer from lack. The people who maintain results long-term view fasting as a rhythm, not a rule. Some days the window shifts, some days it shortens. The consistency of principle matters more than the precision of hours. When fasting becomes part of a system, aligned sleep, structured refeeds, smart resistance training, and consistent timing, your metabolism adapts in a permanent way. You stop relying on willpower because your biology is doing the work for you. Hunger becomes predictable, energy stays high, and fat burning becomes automatic. That's the true outcome of this method, metabolic self-sufficiency. You build a body that knows how to regulate itself, a system that can handle feast and fast, stress and recovery without losing balance. Once you reach that point, fasting is no longer a tool you use. It's simply how your body operates efficiently, naturally, and powerfully for life.